The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the College of New Jersey webinar for out-of-state students. My name is Rob Bonacore. I am the Director of Enrollment Management Technology, and I will be providing technical support for you for tonight's webinar. The webinar will last about an hour, and before we get started with that, I just have a few housekeeping items that I want to bring up before I turn it over to our presenters for the evening. First of all attendees have started in mute mode. So as you saw that you've been muted and are not able to necessarily talk to the presenters. Because of the number of attendees we have on the call for tonight, it just makes it too difficult to have everyone voicing in. So you'll stay on mute for the entire presentation. Questions can be asked at any time, though, and if you're on mute, you may be wondering how you ask questions. On your toolbar, you have a questions tab, and so please use that tab. That's your voice for tonight to enter questions into the webinar. When you ask a question, the question is sent to all TCNJ presenters, so we will all see your questions in there. But don't worry, none of the other attendees see the question. So you won't see other people's questions being asked. You can ask anything you like. You don't need to worry about everyone seeing that. But all presenters will see it, so you don't have to direct it to a particular presenter. We will be reviewing those questions, and then questions will be answered in one of three methods, really. One, the question will be read out loud to the moderator or to the presenter, who will answer it back to the entire room. Questions could be answered privately back through the chat window. So if it's a quick question that we want to answer to you, or if it's a little bit more personal of nature, we may just respond back to you privately through the chat window. And if the webinar gets to the hour mark and we still have more questions, we will follow up by email. So if we can't get to it right now, or if it requires more, maybe we'll respond back through chat and then follow up by email. So all questions being asked are being logged. We know who asked them. We have your email address that you used to register for the webinar. And if at any point we have to end the webinar or you have to go before we get to your question, we'll follow up by all questions by email. Some last little tidbits. One, in the upper right of your viewing screen is a camera icon. You can use that icon to take quick snapshots of what's being shown on screen. So if we show any facts or URLs or email addresses to get in contact with, and you don't want to write that down, you can just quickly take a picture of that, and they'll just save a picture image to your desktop. Lastly, the webinar tonight is being recorded. This will be placed on the website in a few days. So if you have to leave early, if there's someone that wasn't able to make it tonight that you know and wants to see this, you can come back and watch the webinar at another point just to refresh yourself or catch the end of it that you weren't able to stay for. That's all for me. With that, I'm going to turn you over to Matt Middleton. So Matt, it's all yours.
Thank you, Robbie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Middleton. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for out-of-state recruitment at the College of New Jersey. I've been at TCNJ for 19 years now. I was a student there. I graduated back in 2000, and I have been there ever since. So this is actually my 19th year at the college, being a student and a staff member. And I'm very fortunate tonight to be joined by two individuals who have also been affiliated with the school for a few years now, Lindsay Barnt and Leah Duford, one of our current students. I'm just going to have them introduce themselves real quick. Lindsay, if you want to start.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Lindsay Barnt. I am an admissions counselor on the out-of-state admissions team at TCNJ. I do work primarily with our Pennsylvania and Delaware applicants, but I'm really a resource for anybody outside the borders of the great state of New Jersey who's interested in learning a little bit more about our great school. I've been with TCNJ for a little over 3 years now, not an alum of the college, but have really come to love it in the time that I've been there, and I'm just really glad that all of you have chosen to join us tonight, so thank you.
Great, thank you. And Leah, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself? I'm not sure if Leah is still there. Are you there, Leah?
Sorry about that. Yeah, my audio was just reconnecting. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Duford. I'm a sophomore here at TCNJ. I'm an early childhood education and psychology major, and I'm from Simsbury, Connecticut.
Thank you. So we're going to talk about a few different things tonight, and I really encourage everyone, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to interrupt us with a question, and if it's something that we're going to get into a lot more detail a little bit later on in the presentation, we'll certainly do so. But if it's something we can address right then and there, we're also happy to do that as well. So basically what we're going to be talking about tonight are a few things. We're going to focus a lot on the academic experience at the College of New Jersey, as well as our housing and residential life. We're going to hear a little about the social life and the athletic program. And then the tail end of the presentation will really be about our application process, everything you would need to know about wanting to apply to the school, applications, as well as merit scholarship program.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about just the basics of the College of New Jersey. To start, we have 6,400 full-time undergraduate students. So we're really a medium-sized institution. It translates to a student-faculty ratio of 13:1, but the average class size is 22. And I think that that's really important because those class sizes are manageable. The largest classroom on our campus, I believe, holds maybe 75 students. You're never going to be in a lecture-style classroom. You're never going to be just a space or just a number. This is the type of academic environment where you're really going to get to know our faculty and our staff, and they're really going to get to know you throughout the 4 years that you're here. We offer over 52 different majors in 7 academic schools, and we're going to get into a little bit more detail about that in a few minutes. 70% of our students are residential, meaning that they live on campus. And I always say that that number is a little misleading because if you have ever visited Ewing, New Jersey, which is where the College of New Jersey is located, it's a very suburban type setting for our campus. And we will have students who live literally across the street from campus. They walk 10 feet across the road and they're on campus, but we consider those commuters. So what I always like to tell, in particular any family, but in particular out-of-state families, when they come to visit, is that the percentage of the freshmen that live on campus is about 95%. So most of the students are here. We're a traditional 4-year college in the sense that our true commuter population is pretty small. We offer over 200 clubs and organizations. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well, and Leah will be a great resource to kind of talk a little bit about the things that she's become involved with in her time as a TCNJ student. We are Division III for our athletics. We offer 10 sports on both the men's and the women's varsity level, and countless more if you're considering our intramural and our club programs. And study abroad, which is one of our key signature experiences, and I know that I believe Matt's going to talk about that in a few minutes. The study abroad options for TCNJ, we go to over 50 countries around the world. And the cool thing about that is the opportunities in terms of the length of time. A lot of high school students kind of think, oh, I want to study abroad, but that means like a full semester, 4 full months. I'm taking 4 full class, courses worth or credits worth of classes in this other institution, and we absolutely have those programs there. But the way that we're developing our winter session and being able to take a course in between the fall and the spring semesters to complement the the program that we already have in place, which is called our Maymester system, or a program, that does more kind of 3 to 4 week long trips abroad. You get a lot of variety with the length of time at which to do that experience, and we do really think that it's valuable and super important for our students to have that type of experience. And I know that we'll probably get into that into a little bit more detail, but that's just kind of a general picture of the basics for us.
And one of the questions we just got asked, which I think segues very nicely into the next slide, which is some of the highlights about the school, was what percentage of classes are over 50 students. And that's really one of the values of the institution that you're going to hear more about throughout the evening is our small class sizes. The biggest class you'll ever have will be in that 50 student range, but that'll actually be pretty rare. Most of your classes are going to be in the low 20s or high teens. Leah, is that pretty typical for you right now in terms of your class sizes?
Yeah, I remember for me, I had an education seminar my fall semester my freshman year, and I had a biology class seminar this past semester, which had about 48 students. But other than that, all my other classes have been around 20 to 25 students. So apart from the seminar classes, the rest of my classes were all 20 to 25 students. And actually one of my honors philosophy classes, that was actually only 10 students. So that's kind of one of the rarities, but I did find that most of my classes were 20 to 25 students.
Yeah,
so it's a really good size.
And it's very rare for a public institution to have those kind of class sizes. We're not the typical state school in the sense that we don't have big lecture halls. You're never going to be in a room with 200 or 300 people. You can see on the screen we don't have any teaching assistants, so every one of our classes is taught by a professor. And as you get more and more into your major at TCNJ, your classes just get smaller and smaller. You know, Leah's a sophomore right now, but I remember when I was a senior at the college, I had classes that were 5 students and 6 students. I always joke that you couldn't fall asleep in those classes because it'd be pretty obvious if you dozed off, but if you like that kind of more personalized environment, this is a really phenomenal school to be at academically. Some of the other highlights about TCNJ that you can see here, we have one of the top first-year retention rates in the nation. So most of the students who go to the school are genuinely enjoying their experience there. They're happy, they're successful, they're being challenged. Out-of-state students get an extra perk in the sense that they are guaranteed housing for all 4 years, whereas most New Jersey residents do go through a lottery after their first 2 years. We'll talk more about housing in a little bit. We're in a great location, really pretty much smack dab between Philadelphia and Manhattan. So there's a lot of off-campus opportunities for students to take advantage of in those 2 cities, both socially and in terms of internships and things like that. It is a very community service focused campus. If you're the kind of student that likes service, that wants to be involved in service, you know, at the college level, then you're really going to like TCNJ because that's something that our students really pride themselves on. But really, I think the most exciting thing happening at the school right now is something that is coming this summer that we've been watching as an institution go up right across the street from us, and I know Lindsay will be excited to share more about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to address one more question that we got while you were talking about that, Matt, and that was how far away we are from New York. So depending on where you are in New York, from New York City, we're probably about an hour and a half, and there's a lot of different ways that you can get to campus. Obviously, you could, you know, get a ride with your parents or with fellow students from your area. You could also take mass transit. We're probably about an hour on the Northeast Corridor line if you take New Jersey Transit out of Penn Station. Then other areas, if you're in upstate New York, it might be more of a few hours. Essentially, in the areas where I recruit, Pennsylvania and Delaware, if you're anywhere from kind of Washington, D.C. up to Boston, you can bank on getting to our campus anywhere between 3 and 5 hours. And again, not only just the New Jersey Transit System and Amtrak, but also 2 international airports in Philadelphia and Newark, and that doesn't even include the Metro New York airport. So a lot of different ways that you can get to campus, and like Matt said, that's a huge bonus to taking a school like us, is just having that accessibility to all these major cities within a few hours. And our students absolutely toes in the sand at the Jersey Shore when the weather warms up in the spring, which I know they're really excited about as well. But on to Campus Town, this is easily, far and away, the most exciting thing coming to campus. The last 10 years or so, feedback that we got from alumni and current students and faculty and staff, it was pretty consistent when we said, okay, how can we be better, right? You're always looking for a campus that's investing in the campus itself and creating new buildings and new opportunities and exciting ways to learn. And by and away, the most popular response there was, you don't have a place like a downtown. You don't have a place within walking distance to where the students can go. So that is what Campus Town is. We are building it. It's on campus. It's scheduled to be opened in the summer of 2015, which is perfect timing for those seniors on the call who could potentially be starting here in September, but as well as the juniors on the call as well, who are looking for that type of environment that's within walking distance to campus. And the cool thing that they paid a lot of attention to and thought of was the layout. So essentially the first floor of all of these buildings are going to be retail, so shops and restaurants. Panera Bread came in just a few months ago, which the entire campus, at least from a faculty and staff standpoint, was really excited about. But I know that they're talking about a sushi place and a pizza place. I believe the rumors right now are that they are getting a nail salon and possibly a CVS-type pharmacy. There's going to be a brand new state-of-the-art fitness center. And then the key thing is that the bookstore that's currently housed in our Broward Student Center is going to move into a brand new Barnes & Noble. So that's the first floor. But then the second, the third, and the fourth floors of all of these buildings are going to be luxury apartments that our students can rent. It's going to be managed by an off-campus property management company, but essentially you're going to be able to live, quote-unquote, off-campus, but on campus. and it's going to provide an extra, I believe it was around 450 beds. So we're really excited about that. I think they sold out really with the requests for the leasing office did when they started taking leases in the fall. So that's just, we're thrilled, and it's going to be a very exciting time come August for the students and the staff here at TCNJ.
Yeah, we could not be more fired up for this as an institution. We just got another question, which I think is going to be perfect for Leah to answer and really, again, tie into this next slide about the college's 5 signature experiences, which we really want all students to have while they're an undergrad at TCNJ. But Leah, one of the questions we just got from a student was how accessible the professors are.
Yeah, I would say the professors are very accessible. And what's really nice is that all the professors have designated office hours you can go to. So, for example, I remember since I'm a education and psych major, for one of my psychology classes, we had to do a lot of projects, and we spent some time in class working on the projects. But I did have some other questions, subsequent questions after I began working on it. So it's really great that I was able just to check my syllabus and go see when my professors had office hours, and they'll let you know. And even if you need to meet with them outside of their office hours time, all you have to do is make an appointment with your professor, and usually they're always around campus, so it's really easy to contact your professors, and not just even going to them, but through email as well. All the professors have a 24-hour turnaround time in terms of emailing you back, so you'll never be going a full day without having your question answered. All your professors will be available for you by email or by appointment or office hours.
Great, thank you. The signature experiences is something that the college has really committed itself to over the last couple of years to ensure that every single student at TCNJ at some point during their 4 years does one of these things. And really, I think the ultimate goal is for them to do all of these things in some capacity. But certainly the personalized learning Leah just touched on, the research and internship opportunities is something that we want every single student at TCNJ to experience, no matter what it is that they're majoring in at the school. We want you to have something different to talk about when you are going on to whatever comes next, whether it's med school or law school or grad school or employment. Basically, whatever it is you're going to do after your college career is over, we want you to be able to really explore something while you're in school that will really just make you more marketable when you graduate. And this is the kind of thing we're talking about with the research and internships. And I'm a really proud example of this as an undergrad. When I was a senior at the college, I got to do a year-long independent study project with a faculty member. He and I wrote a paper, we co-authored it together. It was a 107-page paper, which really gave me, when I was interviewing for grad schools, a lot to talk about in terms of independent research experience and publishing and things of that nature. So I just remember really feeling much more prepared for grad school, having had that experience. And that's what we want our students to get, again, in any program that they're studying. So internships are required for some of our majors and strongly encouraged in others. And research is something that you can really do at any point in your undergraduate career at TCNJ. Again, very different from a lot of state schools. A lot of public institutions, if you're not a grad student or a PhD candidate, you don't get the chance to do research. Whereas here, you could be a freshman, and if you're connecting with a professor who's doing something really interesting that you want to learn more about, you're able to take full advantage of that at TCNJ. There's stories of that all the time from our students when they arrive there. So that's certainly something we value. I already touched a little bit on the service that our students do. All of our freshmen are required to be involved in a service project during their first year at TCNJ, and we really go into the surrounding community a lot to work with which work with a variety of populations. So that's something that we really encourage everyone to be involved in. The global engagement is, again, something that Lindsay touched on a few minutes ago, but really getting our students to go abroad, whether it's for a semester or a summer, or even during our winter session. We have a 4-week winter session where students can make sort of a mini study abroad experience. And then the last piece is the leadership development, and really giving students the chance to feel empowered inside and outside of the classroom. We've done a variety of different projects as an institution to really get students to have a leadership experience. And that could be everything from actually teaching some of the class on a given day, or attending a conference or presenting research that you've done. We have students doing those kind of things all the time. In fact, Lee is about to experience something like that as a sophomore. Right? Lee, you were talking about it before we started tonight, about your practicum, right?
Yeah, for education, what's really nice is that we get started in the classroom as a sophomore. So this coming semester, I'll have the opportunity to go to an elementary school classroom and observe students, and that'll be part of my child development class. So it's really nice that as a sophomore, I'm able to get out there and have that field experience right away.
Great. We've had a couple of extra questions come in. One of them is about the retail centers and whether TCNJ students are going to get preference for hiring. Great question. For Campus Town, I have no idea. I don't think they've even gotten that far yet in terms of what the hiring policies are going to be, but I'm sure we'll hear more about that as Campus Town gets closer to completion. Someone else was asking about how non-car friendly TCNJ is. I guess for someone who maybe doesn't drive, whether they need to have a car on campus. I know from my own experience I have an opinion about this, but Lee, again, I'm wondering if you would like to chime in on I'm sure I know as a freshman you didn't have a car, and did you feel like you were missing out by not having one?
No, I didn't really feel like that. I think it was also because obviously freshmen aren't allowed to have cars on campus, so everyone was kind of in the same boat. But what's really nice is that TCNJ does offer a lot of ways to get off.
We just went into the ether there. Are you back? Her audio might have disconnected there. I can tell you though, as when I was a student at TCNJ, I didn't have a car until I was a senior. And did not feel the need for it at all, primarily because there was mass transit buses and other ways to get off campus. There's the shuttle system now. And again, once Campus Town starts or opens next summer, I think it's going to be even less necessary to have a car. Another student was asking about being close by and whether that, if they live in Pennsylvania, whether they can be considered an in-state resident. Because they are so close to TCNJ, we really are right on the border there with Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, the answer is no. I know Lindsay, our Pennsylvania counselor, gets this question all the time, right?
All the time.
Making your Bucks County travels.
Oh yeah, I get that all the time.
But alas, no. No matter how close or how far you are, you're still an out-of-state resident.
Yeah, and just going back to the signature experiences for a second, my cousin is a current sophomore at TCNJ, and she's completed 3 semesters. Just to give you guys another viewpoint, but she's finished 3 semesters here at the college, and she's already picked off, I believe, 4 of those 5. She has a research project or a research, internship with the Department of Psychology, which is her major. She did a 3-week trip to Europe and Transylvania for an English Lit class last June, and she's a part of our Women in Leadership, Learning and Leadership initiative. It's called the WILL program. So, just to give you a sense of, she's only been there for 3 semesters so far, but she's already been able to check off the majority of those signature experiences, and I think that that's really great. Moving on into academics, on the left-hand side are the 7 academic schools that house the 52 majors that we offer here at the College of New Jersey. And on the right-hand side, just a list of some of our more popular majors. These are majors that tend to come up when the out-of-state team is recruiting on the road. And you guys are doing a lot of research with what you ultimately like to study in college. And I am sure that some of you are on this list because if you're doing your research with all of the U.S. News and World Reports and the rankings of the world, we're going to come up with a lot of these. But I wanted to talk for a quick minute about just our core, who we are in essence when it comes to TCNJ academics. We are a liberal arts college. We believe that we believe that it's important to have our students study things that have absolutely nothing to do with their major, because we believe it's important to prepare you not only for your career, but also for your life. And what that means at TCNJ is that your courses break down typically into one of 3 buckets. 1/3 of the courses that you take here are going to satisfy your specific major, right? 1/3 are going to be electives that you get to choose. and 1/3 have to satisfy our liberal learning requirements. And those classes are on topics like gender studies, global perspectives, diversity, race, ethnicity, critical thinking and analysis. All of those really important skills that are going to help you be very successful in life and complement the technical experience that you're getting or the knowledge that you're getting in the classroom from a major standpoint in order to do that job that you would ultimately like to achieve. And it's a really long way of saying that at TCNJ, you have a really unique opportunity to craft your own specific undergrad experience. Double majoring happens all the time. Majoring and picking up minors and concentrations happens very, very frequently. A lot of our programs have built-in specialty tracks, and the examples of this are endless. A lot of our pre-med majors may be in a science field like a biology or chemistry, but they're picking up minors in art history or photography, right? They have a creative side to them that they really want to continue in college, but not deter them from that ultimate goal of becoming a doctor. We have art majors, visual art majors, or interactive multimedia majors that are getting double majors in computer science, right? Or business. Maybe they would like to own their own gallery or company someday, and that's a useful skill to have those business courses to complement the art degree that they're getting. At TCNJ, you will never be siloed to studying in your specific major, in your specific academic school, and I really think that it's a disservice if you don't get out there and take some courses in some other majors here. In terms of, again, those popular majors, the outcomes, I could go for the whole rest of this webinar on that. We have a 97% pass rate on the national or the NCLEX exam for our nursing majors. It's a 97% pass rate for the praxis for our incoming, our future leaders and teachers of America. 2/3 of students in the School of Business secure at least one internship in the 4 years they're here at TCNJ. Our medical school placement rate fluctuates any year between 80 and 85%. It's twice the national average of other institutions. And I know that we got a question in particular about a student who was interested in engineering. We're one of the few institutions in this country that require our seniors to take the fundamentals of engineering exam. It's the first exam you have to take on your way to becoming a professional engineer. And that is, again, 85 to 90% pass rate. So our students are really challenged in the classroom here academically. They're able to create unique experiences to shape their undergrad degree and their 4 years here, and they're going on and really being successful in that next step, whether it's securing a job or some employment, or whether it's going on to one of those other, med school, grad school type situations. So that's a little bit about our academics.
And we got in a couple other academic questions, including Andrew, I appreciate your patience. I know you were the very first one to ask a question, and you had asked about whether students can change their majors from when they apply, or if they're stuck with the major that they pick on the common application. And we had another question about when students are required to choose their major. We do ask students to pick a major or at least pick one of the 7 academic schools when they submit an application at TCNJ, but you are not locked into that major for life. A lot of our students will switch their majors during their time at TCNJ. The one challenge we face right now as an institution is that some of our more popular majors, like nursing and biology, are a little overcrowded, and we're very deliberate in not wanting to make those programs too big, because again, the reason that the students tend to like the school is because of the small classes and the opportunity to work closely with professors and getting research experience. So there are some majors where switching into that program can be more challenging depending on how crowded it is and how much space is available. But certainly at the time of application, if the student sort of has multiple passions, which we fully expect from our applicants, it is okay to switch. But when you do apply, you are expected to at least give us an initial expectation of what your major is going to be. One of the other really nice features about the institution right now is we've been building some really great facilities for our students over the last few years. You'll see some pictures of them now. We have these really great nursing simulation labs for our students. We have a beautiful library that opened about 8 years ago. Those are the pictures on the right-hand side. We have some really nice facilities for our brand new facilities for our art students, as well as our School of Education building. And we're about to build this really phenomenal STEM complex that's going to open in the summer of 2017 which will be for our engineering majors. So that's coming in the pipeline. That's some artist renditions of what that's going to look like, which we're really excited about. But it's a really beautiful campus, but it looks like it's been there for a very long time, and yet a lot of the facilities are much newer and more state-of-the-art than you'd expect simply from looking at more of the older Georgian architecture. A couple more quick questions before we sort of shift out of the academics part and talk more about the residential experience for our students. Folks were asking about education. There was a couple questions related to that. Deaf Ed, for those of you who are curious, is a 5-year program with a master's degree, as is our special education and urban education programs. All of our other education programs are 4-year programs. And then we also had questions, and this is probably the #1 question we get from out-of-state students who are interested in teaching, which is, can I go home to teach? Do I have to be a teacher in New Jersey, or can I be certified elsewhere? And one of the great things about our program is that it is a fully accredited program, which means that you can essentially teach anywhere in the country with a degree from TCNJ, provided that you take the other state's teacher examination. So again, Leah's an education major from Connecticut, and she's going to have no difficulty teaching in Connecticut if she decides she wants to go home after graduation. It's just a slightly different exam she'll have to take. But no extra coursework or anything else that some other colleges might require from their students. So in terms of housing on campus, I already mentioned about the 4-year guaranteed housing. But again, I'm going to turn it over to Leah at this point, since she's our current student on campus. And Leah, I was hoping you could just touch on what your freshman year experience was like, especially our first seminar program.
Sure, and sorry about that. I've had some difficulties with the connection here, but sure, I'll go over the housing. I love living on campus on TCNJ. What's really nice is that the first week that you come in, you have a full week of Welcome Week, which is something that you should definitely look forward to as a freshman coming in. What's really nice is that your CAs and your 2 ambassadors for your floor will help you to make that transition a smooth one into college. And what's really nice is that you'll be living with 50 to 60 other freshmen on your floor, and you'll really get to make those connections firsthand. And what I really like, one of the really good things that I really loved about TCNJ was the fact that they gave us a full week before classes started to be able to make those connections. And I found by the end of Welcome Week, I knew all the kids' names on my freshman floor, which is really great. So throughout the year, I was able to make those friendships last throughout the whole year. And now I'm actually living with several other girls from my freshman floor and my quad, and then across the hall I have some other friends from my freshman floor as well. So what's really nice is that as an out-of-stater, you do get guaranteed housing for all 4 years. So that's really great. So hopefully all my friends and I will end up still living together for the next 3 years or so. So it's really nice that you get to make those connections and that they'll be able to last throughout your 4 years here on campus.
And the picture you see on this screen are our townhouses, which are really in many ways the sort of crown jewel of living at the school. I know when I graduated, I did not want to move out of townhouses. I was very content to stay there for many more years to come. But that's just one of the upper class options that students have to take advantage of.
So we talk a lot about the academics, which is obviously first and foremost, but of course you need to balance all of that work that you're doing inside of the classroom with some fun outside. And there is tons of fun on TCNJ's campus. So we have over 200 clubs and organizations. We are going to be really similar to a lot of other schools that you are looking at in terms of what we offer. We have a very engaged student government. The sororities and the fraternities on our campus, our Greek life is great, but it does only take up about 20% of campus in terms of student involvement. So about 20% of the current students are involved. And I think that's really important because I know personally when I was going through the college search process, I definitely didn't want to go to a school where everybody who was on campus was involved in either a sorority or fraternity. I knew that wasn't what I personally wanted to do, and I like that there's a balance on our campus. It goes the same for the student government. About 20 to 25% of campus is involved in the student government as well. We have over 15 musical ensemble groups. The musical theater program at TCNJ is fantastic. They do 2 shows a year and have a very engaged student body. But if you are a performer, if you are a dancer, if you have been in choir, if you play an instrument, and even though may not be majoring in music, would like to continue playing, you're going to have a lot of variety to do that. I touched a little bit on the sports. We have intramural and club level sports. So if you want to stay active if you play sport now in high school and you want to stay active, you're going to be able to do that in some capacity. We do offer Army and Air Force ROTC, as well as so many countless leadership and service initiatives. We have multicultural and religious organizations on campus. And I think the cool thing about TCNJ is just the opportunity to take ownership if we don't have something that you want. And the example that I've been using this year, and it's been a great one, we have a student ambassador, Sam, who said, we don't have a pep band. How do we not have a pep band that's performing at our athletic events on campus? And he went to the student government and said, I think we need to have this, and did all the paperwork and presented it. And he got funding, and now TCNJ has a brand new pep band. There's about 25 students who play in it, and they bring so much livelihood to the sporting events that they are asked to participate in and that they go to. So I think just being able to advocate and to have an opportunity to create some change on campus as a student when we don't have something is really great as well. And the only thing not on this page that I always like to talk about are the interest-based organizations. I don't know if we have any Harry Potter fans on the webinar tonight. I did not read the books, but we do have and I hope I'm saying this right, but a Quidditch club. So I think they run around on the green hall lawn and do some sort of game, I think, involving sticks. And my personal favorite is Man Hunt. We have a group that gets together on Friday nights at 8 o'clock, and they play capture the flag on campus, which I think is great. So even just the interest-based groups are going to be out there. You want to swing dance, you want to be in the Art Student Association, and then, of course, I didn't even touch on all of the academic and the professional associations that we have on campus as well. National Society of Black Accountants, the Society of Women Engineers. You know, there's obviously those as well. So it's a really fun place to be, and I think Leah can speak to that as well.
Leah, would you mind just touching on some of the organizations that you're involved in?
Sure. So one of the organizations, one of the things I'm involved in on campus is an ambassador, and I love this job. It's an on-campus job, and one of the main things I really love about it is the fact that I'm able to share my experiences with prospective students, and it's a really great way to make friendships and be able to, really reach out to prospective students and really show them what an excellent school TCNJ is. So that's one of the things I do. Another thing I'm involved in on campus is Phi Sigma Sigma sorority. I actually just joined this past fall, and I'm loving it so far. I have a leadership position coming up this coming semester as the philanthropy chair. So in that position, I'm able to create an event that will go towards, and all the money that we collect from this event will go towards our charity, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So that's something great that I'm able to do through the sorority. And then other clubs I'm involved in, I'm in the Kappa Delta Pi Education Honor Society. So that's a great thing to be involved in if an education major. And then 3 other clubs I'm involved in. I'm in the Teachers for Young Children's Association, the Students of New Jersey Education Association, and the Out-of-State Student Alliance. So those 2 education clubs were great things I was able to get involved in as a freshman. It was really nice that I got a lot of professional development opportunities, one of which I was actually able to go to the teachers conference in Atlantic City last fall, and I was able to go to some seminars for smartboard technology, different ways of teaching literacy and math. I was able to go to a lot of these different info sessions where I was able to get that professional development opportunities. And then as part of the Out-of-State Student Alliance, we work to get different benefits for out-of-state students on campus. So throughout all these things, definitely one thing I definitely suggest is really getting involved on campus. This is how I made a lot of my friendships and was able to really feel like a part of the TCNJ community.
Great, thank you. We just got a question about what is it they're doing in the picture on the slide. And I believe it's some sort of painting with your feet experience. I don't entirely know, but they certainly look like they're enjoying themselves. But hard to tell. I'm not sure which organization it is that was sponsoring that little artistic endeavor. In terms of athletics, we have one of the premier Division III sports programs in the country. Division III, of course, means that there are no athletic scholarships for our students, but we do have a phenomenal program, especially for women. Our women's program is regularly rated as one of the 2 or 3 best in the nation every single year. Sorry that the slides keep shifting there. But it's a really fantastic place for sports, even though we are a smaller school. We have had a lot of success from our student body. You can see we've won more national titles and runner-up awards than any other institution in the nation. Our field hockey team this past year actually just won the national championship. So it's definitely a great school for athletics, and we have a fantastic club and intramural program as well, so you can still be very involved in sports without doing the full varsity.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process, shifting into on how to apply to the College of New Jersey. We're a Common App exclusive school. It's the only way that you can apply to TCNJ. And for those of you who may not know too much about the Common App and the application process, the Common Application is used by over 400 colleges and universities across the country, and it's exactly what it says. It is a common application. You fill one application out for all these schools, and then each school has a supplement to that where they can ask the questions that they would like to know from the students that are applying. For us, we do require that you do put that first choice major and that second choice major on there. The good news for TCNJ is that we don't require any additional essays. So the one essay that you write on the Common App is the only one that we need, and this is typically when I have students in person on campus visiting, where I take a break and have everybody class, because that is really good news for those of you who are writing tons of essays in the fall for applying to these schools. So we're Common App exclusive. The TCNJ supplement is really just a bunch of questions, not a lot of extra essays. And there's 2 ways to apply to the college: early decision and general decision. This year, with early decision, we had 2 separate deadlines. They were November 1st and January 1st. Our students were notified December 1st and February 1st, respectively, for those. And early decision is the binding agreement, right? So you've gone through your entire search process. You've visited a bunch of colleges. And then you say, oh my gosh, TCNJ is by and away my very first choice school. If they say yes and accept me, I am going there 100%. Applying early decision is an option for you, and those would be the deadlines to do so. But that is a binding agreement. If you are accepted to TCNJ, then you'll be required to deposit, typically within 2 weeks after being notified, to secure your spot in the class. If you want to apply general decision, if you think to yourself, well, I like TCNJ, but I like another school or 2 as well, maybe potentially in my home state, but I just want to see, if I get in, what does the scholarship package look like, what type of financial aid, will be into the mix here with deciding with schools. If you kind of want to compare a couple of schools to see, and there's not one clear front runner, or if finances are going to play a part in ultimately where you decide to go to school, then absolutely apply general decision. For us, that deadline is February 1st, and today being January 22nd, I believe, it's not too late for you seniors who maybe haven't gotten your Common Application in. So February 1st is that deadline, and our students in the general decision process will hear back no later than April 1st. So those are the 2 different ways that you can apply to the College of New Jersey. The other really great program that we have here is our application fee waivers for out-of-state students. Every school counselor, out-of-state school counselor, will receive from us 1 fee waiver to use on a student who's interested in applying to TCNJ. So if you haven't done so already, just roll the dice, go to your counselor, say, hey, I was on this webinar, I thought TCNJ was really great, I'm interested in applying. And if that counselor cannot locate their fee waiver from us specifically, that's where at the end, email myself, we'd be more than happy to get your school counselor one so that we can get your application in. So those are just the basics, and I know that Matt's going to talk a little bit about just the application review process and what we're looking for in our out-of-state students.
So when we evaluate an application at TCNJ, we're really looking at 6 factors. And the most important one is always going to be the very first one you see on this list, the transcript. The grades you've gotten, the courses that you've taken, the strength of your school, the strength of your curriculum. That's really the key thing that we evaluate, that we spend most of our time reviewing as admissions counselors. We do look at standardized test scores. We accept either the SAT or the ACT, whichever one you do better on. That's the one that we're going to use for both admissions and scholarship purposes. We do superscore the SAT, so no matter how many times you take the test, we will always take your best math and best critical reading scores. We do not require SATs for art, music, and our interactive multimedia programs. Those programs are test score optional because they have an audition or a portfolio component. But the vast majority of our programs do require an SAT or an ACT. Extracurricular involvement is a huge part of the process for us, especially if you have any kind of leadership or service in your school or your community. You want to put those things right at the top of your activity list because that's something we're paying a lot of attention to. We're going to ask you to submit 2 or 3 recommendations. There's really no minimum or maximum number that you have to send in. We're often asked during these webinars, what's the right number of recommendations to send in? And I tell students that 2 or 3 is really ideal because we always want one from a teacher, and it's great to get one from your school counselor, but it's often very nice to get one from someone who can talk about you outside the classroom, a coach or an advisor to a club that you're in, an employer, someone who can talk about you beyond academics. A lot of times students just send us teacher after teacher after teacher in their recommendations, and they all start to sound similar. So getting some different folks with different perspectives is really valuable when we're reviewing the recommendations. Lindsay already touched on the essay a little bit. We don't require anything beyond what the Common App essay is asking for. And then the last thing we look at is the academic major. I leave it for last on purpose because for most students who apply to the school, the major is not going to have a big impact on their admissions decision. But again, there are some programs right now that are really popular, and we are a little bit more competitive for admission in those areas. And conversely, there are some programs that we are really trying to grow here as an institution, and so we are a little bit more flexible when it comes to those majors. The nice thing about our admissions process, though, is that if we feel like you're a really good candidate for TCNJ, but we can't squeeze you into the major that you picked on the Common Application, we will always reach out to you and give you an opportunity to be considered for a different major. We know for a lot of our students have lots of interests and they're not necessarily locked into one major. So don't feel that you're going to be reviewed as all these different factors. But if the major is just a little bit too competitive for your application, you might still be eligible for TCNJ in another program of study. So if you do get one of those emails from us during the application process and you really are more passionate about the school than your major, it gives you the flexibility to choose something else, potentially be considered for admission in that different area.
Okay, and I'm just going to quickly touch on merit scholarships and aid. Obviously, with all of our participants being from out of state, we are probably going to be more expensive than some of your public options in state. On the flip side, we're going to be significantly less expensive than the private schools in the Northeast that you may be looking at or considering. I didn't get to touch on this before, but whenever we have new students that are learning a little bit more about TCNJ, I always like to give them and run off a list of our comparator institutions. A few years ago, we said, okay, who are we most like out there in the United States when it comes to a whole variety of things, both extracurricularly and academically? And on that list, especially in the Northeast, are places like Villanova, Lehigh, Boston College, SUNY Geneseo, if you're looking at the University of Delaware, down to Virginia, if you're looking at James Madison or the College of William and Mary, Loyola in Maryland. These are all schools that are on our comparator list. And you're going to notice that some of them are public schools, but some of them are private schools as well. We really view ourselves as as the premier public institution in the Northeast, but our academics are going to line up with some of those private schools, and we are going to be significantly less than those. But to help bridge that gap, right, we offer a very, very generous merit scholarship program for our out-of-state students. The awards range anywhere from $3,000 to $11,000 per year. When you receive your acceptance letter from the college, you will have in there an application for the Merit Scholarship Program, and we're able to factor in both academic and extracurricular activities into this. And that's something that's a little different. The majority of the in-state students, we really are only looking at the academic profile, but we are able to factor in your extracurriculars. And the other big thing that's not on here is that we're able to factor in your interest in TCNJ. There are a few kind of short answer essay questions with this application. But really, when it comes down to us using these dollars, we want to make it possible, the most possible for students who are showing the most interest in wanting to come to TCNJ. So make sure that you're demonstrating that interest throughout the application process, and in particular with your scholarship application. The good news, if you're accepted to TCNJ and you apply for a merit scholarship, there's really good odds that you're going to get something. About 85% of our enrolled students will receive a merit award. There's also the potential towards the end of the admission cycle to receive an upgrade. That information is relayed to you at that point later on in the process. And I believe the percentage of students who end up enrolling at the college with a merit scholarship for out-of-state is actually a little bit higher than that. I think that's anywhere between 90 and 95%. But the goal with the scholarship program is this. The in-state, out-of-state difference in tuition is about $12,000. So our hope is that we want to get you as close as possible to what the in-state students are paying, and really closer, to what you potentially would be paying at some of those public schools in your home state. That's strictly based on merit, right? What you've been, or the hard work that you've been putting on in the classroom, and your SAT scores and whatnot, and the extracurriculars. But we also do offer need-based aid, and we're doing it in two ways this year. First, of course, you can submit the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal financial aid, and then you can fill that out. But we're also this year, it's the very first year that TCNJ is doing it, we're going to require the CSS profile for students who want to be considered for need-based awards. These awards would be on top of the merit awards that you'd be receiving, the merit scholarship awards that you'd be receiving, but you do need to submit the CSS profile to be considered for those need-based awards. The deadline for that, for those seniors that are on our webinar tonight who have applied general decision is February 15th. The CSS profile does take a little bit more time than the FAFSA to complete. It goes into a little bit more detail and asks more specific questions for your parents to fill out, so it does take a little bit more time, but our goal is to truly be able to, for the first time really at least, in the few years that I've been here, really apply and grant some need-based awards for students that are kind of falling in that middle class to make us a little bit more affordable. So there's going to be a lot more information about that coming down the pike as well, but just to keep that in the back of your mind. I think the coin phrase that I always like to say is, just because we're out of state doesn't mean we have to be out of the question. And at the end of the day, you're never going to know what that kind of final cost is going to be out of pocket until you go through the steps of A, applying really, and then B, seeing about the scholarship for merit and for need-based.
So we have a few more minutes here before we wrap things up, and there have been a few more questions that have come through. One of which is probably the most popular question we get as admissions counselors: what's the average SAT score? And last year, our admitted students, the middle 50% of them, fell between an 1180 and a 1350. So 25% of our admitted students had below an 1180, 25% had above a 1350, and everybody else was in the middle. One of the nice things about being an out-of-state student right now is that we are actively trying to grow our out-of-state population. So the SAT averages are a little bit more flexible and generous with the out-of-state population. A student doesn't have super SAT or ACT scores but have other pieces of their application that are strong. We have a little bit more flexibility with those students simply because of where they're from. So that's one little perk in the process right now. We're going to continue to take questions as they come in here over the next few minutes, since we are getting close to 8:30. But I did just want to put my contact information as well as Lindsay's up there, so you feel free to email us with any questions that you have afterwards, and we will be emailing any students answers to questions that we might not get to in the next few minutes, since we are getting close to the end.
Yeah, we had a question a few minutes ago from Andrew asking if he can take courses in the School of Engineering, if he's enrolled in the School of Business, and if so, how difficult would it be to switch. That really, that depends on what major you're coming from and what major you want to go to. All of the major changes for students who are currently at TCNJ, it just kind of depends on the availability in that particular major. I know offhand as the liaison for the School of Engineering that about 75% of the major requests from current students are granted. There's also a really unique program at TCNJ that I would encourage you to look at. It's called Engineering Science Management. It's actually a major within the School of Engineering that is a combination of engineering and business. It's a program that I hope it will pick up steam in the next few years, because I am finding as I go on the road, a lot more students are interested in marrying those two areas together. So definitely take a look at engineering science. And if you had particular questions or specific questions later, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
We actually have a question for Leah from a fellow Connecticut student.
Yes.
They're curious where else you applied and why you chose TCNJ.
Sure. I applied, in addition to TCNJ, I applied to 8 other schools. I applied to UConn, University of Scranton, Salve Regina in Rhode Island. I applied to TCNJ, obviously. Let's see, where else did I apply? I applied to Boston College. I applied to Quinnipiac University. So in terms of what I was really looking for, I was really looking for a school that had the same academic rigor as my high school, and I also was looking for a place where I really felt like this was my second home. So out of all those schools that I applied to, TCNJ really had that second home feeling that I feel like, I could see myself walking around campus, and I looked at the academic programs that they had on campus, and since I'm an education major, they had a really, really strong education program, which is something I'm really proud of, being an education major here at TCNJ. So kind of all those things combined really helped me to see that TCNJ was the right fit for me.
Great, thank you. We just got a question about the honors program, and we do offer an honors program for TCNJ students that you'll be considered for at the time of your admission application. If you get into honors, about 10% of our student body right now is in the honors program, and that program is actually, I'm a graduate of the honors program, and what I say about it now is that some of the advantages to being in the honors program are very different from when I was a student here, because what really is valued in the honors program are things like research, independent research, and working in collaboratively with your classmates on different projects and activities. And really, a lot of our students get to take advantage of that stuff, whether they're in the honors program or not. Some of the perks of the honors program, if you do get into it, is very leadership in the classroom focused. So the students are really encouraged to take ownership of their learning in the classroom. They do a lot of the talking in those classes. Also very interdisciplinary, which means that in some cases professors from different programs are actually teaching a class together, or you'll be in courses with students from a variety of different majors. So you just get some different perspectives in that regard. But it is, and there is honors housing available for our students as well. So if you do want to live with other honors students, you can do so. I know someone had asked earlier about if the floors for our freshmen are major specific, if there's like an engineering floor or a business floor, and there really isn't. The only specific type of floors we have are the floors that are for the students in the honors program.
Okay, we had another question pop up. Is there an extra essay for scholarship application? And the answer to that is yes. In the scholarship application that you receive with your acceptance packet, we do ask you 3 short answer essay questions. They're typically things like, why are you interested in TCNJ? Excuse me. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Just essentially giving you another opportunity to, again, demonstrate that interest that you have in the school. And we do sit down and read all of those essays. Matt and Emily and myself sit down in a conference room one day and get all of those essays out and read them. And it really is a great opportunity to advance your application a little bit. Your extracurriculars are on there, and your transcript and your SAT and your ACT scores and how you've been performing inside the classroom on there. But the essays are an opportunity for you to demonstrate that interest, and I promise they won't be as painful as some of the other ones you have to write for college applications at other schools.
Okay, we got one more question, and then we're going to call it a night here. And that question is whether a student with an alumni connection receives any credit for that in their application. And I'm happy to report that is the case. We do certainly value whether a student has a parent or sibling who has attended TCNJ in the past, and we do factor that into the equation. It's not a huge part of our process because we actually have a lot of students who do have those alumni connections, but it is something that we do look at when we are reviewing applications. So on that note, we're going to say goodnight and remind you that this will be published on our website in a few days, so if you came in late or if there are parts that you might have missed, you can always review the webinar in its entirety on our website shortly. I want to thank Lindsay and especially Leah for joining me tonight. Leah is on her winter break, so I really appreciate her taking the time to answer questions and be available to share her experiences. And on behalf of everyone in the admissions office, I just want to again thank everyone for participating and wish you all the best in your college search process. I know it can be an overwhelming process sometimes and a little scary, especially if you're a junior right now and just starting. For you seniors, I'm sure you're looking forward to being over. But we certainly wish you the best of luck and hope you find that school that is the right fit for you.